hearts, stare at the stars. We were never apart, drinking too young, way too much fun out late. Now I remember you and me, and how careless we could be. All day and all night, we'd stay up, it felt so right. We were so young, we were so dumb. We would get drunk and then hook up. We were okay, we were alright, staying awake till the sunrise. We were in love, couldn't stop us, like a good drug, never enough. We'd hook up in my car, driving so far, play you guitar, you'd show me your art, let down our guards, think with our hearts, stare at the stars. We were never apart, drinking too young, way too much fun, out in the sun, hoping when it's gone. Took you to prom, dance to our song, dance all night long till the lights come on.
Oh shit, it's on. I thought it was doing the opening. Hey everybody.
It's too late now.
Can you even hear this? Okay, there you go.
Everything and how careless we could be.
All right, so we're getting back to our usual stuff. What are we doing today? And again, for anyone who's watching, if you don't like that you're featured on one of these, just let me know, and I will gladly take the episode down or edit you out. It's very easy to do. You don't have to do a copyright strike. And we're all playing the same game anyway. So if you're doing copyright strikes, that means you're a weak YouTuber. And you can't stand on your own ground. So that's too bad. But dirty pool aside, we are going to be doing things. By the way, check this out. I bought this weekend. So I have been looking for this for myself ever since, I think, Pope Francis' inauguration. Is that actually what it's called? A coronation? There was a lady from Norway who had, it might have been the previous Pope's funeral. No, I think it was Pope Francis's inauguration. Anyway, she had a anchor instead of a cross as the cross with Jesus. And I really like this one. The other one I'm going to get is going to be a cross with the yin yang symbol in the center, because I was a Taoist for a very long time. I'm still a martial artist, so I want to do that. But the reason why I haven't gotten them is because I've seen a few of them lately, and they're all like over $300. I can't afford that. I'm broke. This is like $20. This was like, well, this was $30. The chain was $20. But this is affordable. It doesn't. You can't really tell that this is a a wheel for a ship. But one day maybe I'll have money again and I can get the better one. I don't know if you know this, but I'm looking at the screen and I'm seeing a celebrity, brand new series, copyright strike. The name might change. 90 episodes, 1-minute episodes of the trials and tribulations of a YouTuber, of a Catholic YouTuber. It's very important for the character, who's struggling through a copyright strike. Kip Davis, if you're listening, I reached out to your channel. I have a role for one episode, for one 1-minute episode, for you, that I think you would be perfect for. Assuming my channel survives 90 days and I don't somehow get another copyright strike or get canceled or someone gets rid of my channel. If that happens, there are other platforms. I will start doing the migration thing. Don't worry. I'm not done forever, but just in case, YouTube is fraught with the problem of false copyright strikes and fair use being ignored because people have a problem with people's opinions and they want to get personal. It's too bad. It does happen though, and if my channel disappears, there goes everything I've done for the last 11 years. That's going to hurt, but I've survived worse, so it's okay. Today, we are going to do. Sorry, golly. I'm going to do a little bit of actually some atheist stuff. I haven't done atheist stuff in a while. We're not going back to our roots or anything like that. We're going to watch a little bit of atheist stuff. And then we're going to get into Truth Unites. And then we're going to go to. I'm going to save useful charts video for later, assuming I still have a channel. Because I want to get. It's on evolution, and I really want to do a video on evolution. But not right now. Not today. God dog it. And I so want to do the Brian Holsworth video stuff, but I don't trust him not to copyright strike me, and I already have one. So like I said, that video is probably coming in 90 days, or I'll do it, and I'll do a summary of what he said, and then I'll do the commentary on the summary. I hate doing it that way, but it's how I used to do things. That's why my channel wasn't growing very, very large. But if the Catholics are going to be all Nancy-pantsy about things, I got to be careful, guys. I love Wise Disciple. By the way, if I do someone's video on here, go to their channel, watch their thing, and say, I sent you there, okay? Let them know that, yes, I'm watching them, but I'm sending an audience to them, okay? I want to do the purgatory thing. I just don't know if I'm in the right headspace for it. Okay, so don't care. Whoop, nope, not now. No, I don't want to pay for that. I definitely don't want to pay for a subscription if I'm about to get kicked off. Gee whiz, guys. Gee whiz, gee willikers. I got plans for my little mini-series, by the way. I have plans. Never piss off a creative. What are you doing? Don't fuck with creative people. We're creative. We're going to find a workaround and we're going to make fun of you for it. We're used to getting picked on. We're creative. We're the people you called the F slur a lot. Believe me, we can. Oh, we're going to have so much fun with this series if this series keeps going and I still have this channel active. Okay. Like I said, we're going to do like 2 or 3 Brian Holsworth videos in the future. I'm going to have to separate them 90 days apart. I'm going to do a Brian Holsworth video every 100 days because I don't trust them not to come at me. Let's see. What else do I have going on? Okay. I'm just getting rid of some stuff out of here before we switch over to the to everything else. Yeah, that evolution thing with John Barixma was really disappointing to hear him go creationist. And by the way, I mean, we are Catholics are creationists, just to be very clear. But for him to go to a Protestant argument just seemed, I don't know, below him. I haven't finished watching the Thoughtful Faith. I want to do more stuff on Mormonism. I'm still reading the Book of Mormon. It's not convincing. It's not. I want to be very clear. When I say it's not convincing and that it's not written well, I don't mean it's as bad as the Quran. Okay? Probably the most before the Quran. And by the way, I've read the Satanic Bible, so when I'm saying this, I'm not being hyperbolic. Probably the most egregious thing I've ever read is the Marquis de Sade, which I don't know where I have his books. I have his entire collection. The most egregious thing before the Quran was were all 3, and really 120 Days of Sodom is not that bad, but the Justine and Juliet are just wholly blasphemous, offensive, dark stuff. And the Quran is worse than those books when it comes to Christianity. I don't mean in like, how can I put it? I don't mean in explicitness or in um, like perverseness. No, no. The Quran is a very structured religion, but it in a very, I'm going to call it holy religion. Uh, what comes out of it, Islam, but it contradicts core uh, Christian concepts. Turn the other cheek. Treat others how you want to be treated. The golden rule. Just any kind of Christian concept that's not Judaic in its origin, or not Judaic by itself in its origin. Like you can see the parallels in Judaism, but it's completely become Christianized. The Quran contradicts, and it's probably the most blasphemous thing to Christianity I've ever read. Again, I'm not talking about being blasphemous to God. I'm not talking about being blasphemous to Islam. It totally fits with Islam, but the religion that is presented in Christianity, in the Gospels and in Acts and in the epistles, does not match up with what's in the Quran. You can take what's in the Old Testament and get uh, the Gospels, you can get the New Testament, and you can take the Old Testament parts of it anyway and move it into and have it fit and connect to what's in the Quran. What you can't have is the New Testament and the Quran matchup. Um, so it's interesting how the Quran affirms the Injil. Very weird that it does that. And one day I might return to reading the Quran again um, on air. But that's a future thing, and it really depends where my channel goes and how healthy my channel is after surviving this, assuming it survives this strike and any future strikes that might come. Um, okay, so I don't know why there's not more people watching already. Usually we have a little audience already, and I don't see an audience right now. Let me check the sound before we keep going on. Anyway, Kip, if you're watching this part, I know you're not going to watch a whole video of mine, but if you do catch this, I'm looking to recruit you for a role. We can do it over Skype or over Zoom or even over uh, some other platform like this, and we can have you dial in like that. But I have a role that I think you're perfect for. Uh, anyway, let's just make sure we have good sound. Yes. Sounds good. So I don't know why we don't have more people in here already. All right. What do I want to start off with? We're going to get to the purgatory stuff probably today. Maybe. We're going to start off with low fruit. And they're making fun of Mike Winger, who doesn't like to. I mean, even other Christians, even David Wood, just humiliates Mike Winger all the time. He flogs him all the time. He's the flogging Molly of Christian apologetics. But I will say this. I did a 6 video takedown where I went way too harsh on Mike Winger. Mike Winger never did a copyright strike. And when I apologized for going too far, he had one of his acolytes go in there and say, good. And so I'll say this. Even if I agree with him theologically, I appreciate that Mike Winger has some balls and he has fortitude. And thank you, Mike Winger, for being able to take it on the chin. Not just from me, but from a ton of creators. You don't do copyright strikes. You're not an asshole about things. I know you don't like the crass words. That's fine. So you probably won't even hear this because people will be like, oh. But for real, Mike, no one gives you credit for that because you eat a lot of shit and you don't copyright strike people. You don't go after people. You let people have their opinion on you and use your clips. So you're much more of a man than some other apologists out there. So thank you, Mike, for being able to take it because not everybody can, and no one gives you enough credit for that. It's hard to be on the internet with everybody telling you you're wrong and still keep moving forward. So you have a lot of fortitude, and you deserve more credit for that, Mike. All right. As I say that, let's enjoy the shit show.
This is Jedi Ninja 69.
Thank you, God of Day and Night. I'm glad. Thank you for this for the sub. Appreciate it. God of Day and Night. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that.
Tonight, Mike damns his family.
I was the only Christian, only person I was Christian that was part of my close family.
Steve exalts North Korea.
But at least in North Korea, you get to fucking die.
And
All-powerful, all-loving God, and yet he'll send people to hell. Like,
So, again, God's not sending people to hell. People are going to hell. Regardless, the majority of civilization is going to hell, or at least to oblivion. Only a select few get to become part of God or one with God through theosis. That's it. Only the few, only the chosen. The default is hell, is oblivion, is the void, is whatever you want to think of, is chaos, is non-existence. That's where most things go after they no longer exist. So, and that's not just in the Bible, that's other stuff too. Did I just get a goon pop up from Bao? Thank you, Bao. Thank you for existing, because I really needed that on my semi apologetics channel.
will say, yeah, that's actually quite a nice thing that Jesus taught. Hell undoes it all. And you get that no one gets.
Hell doesn't undo it all. Let's go back. Let's go back to hear this right here. Sorry, I was talking about Bow the Well and I got distracted.
Lack of knowledge. And going out of their way to try and find out. You could even add, but even without that. Even without that. And it's not just punished, it's eternally punished. It's eternal.
The lady said that
scary concept.
20-inch necklace would be
idea
too short for me.
A
But
non-believer
I
goes
think
to hell simply
up
for
here
their
would
non-belief.
fit better,
that
right?
would not be the action of a moral being. No, and to add a bit more meat to this bone, Bertrand Russell said that Jesus is evil.
If that's
Because
the case,
even with him coming and teaching lots of nice things, which a lot of atheists will say, yeah, that's actually quite a nice thing that Jesus taught, hell undoes it all.
and you get the
hell doesn't undo it all. Hell, if hell exists, the problem is that you're not only are you taking this as speculative theology, but you're countering it as if it's true. So you're both speculating and considering it true for it to be evil. You're doing it in reverse. You have to start off with the idea that it's true and then weigh the morality of it. So if it's true that there is a hell or non-existence or a void or chaos or punishment for your bad deeds, if you want to just think about it that way. And you got to think about the Jewish idea of hell, the one that the Christian idea is, because the Christian idea is based on the Jewish idea of hell. And the Jewish idea of hell comes from, I want to say Nebuchadnezzar. Why can I never remember Xanthurianism? It comes from Xanthurianism. Okay, so the Jewish idea of hell is not eternal punishment. It's you go and you get purified. It's almost like the Catholic purgatory. And what happens when you get to hell is that if after you've been punished for all your sins, you're so wicked that there's nothing of you left, then your soul, your essence, the you that is you, ceases to exist because it burnt up. What gets saved is the goodness, is what's pure. The purity, the gold, is what gets put into heaven. So if you're pure and all the evil gets burnt off and there's something of you left, something of your essence left, that's what gets into heaven. That's what gets to be before God in ultimate reality, in ultimate existence, before the absolute being. So that's what we're talking about. Now, Jesus' reinterpretation, if you will, or commentary on how hell works is very sparse. It is later theologians, mostly Catholic theologians, who developed this idea. And then from them comes the entertainment and the art, comes, Dante and all of that stuff. And from that then comes the Protestant understanding. And the timing here might be a little off, but you get it. First comes the fiction. First comes the theory, then comes the fiction, and then comes the general acceptance of the fiction, but the theology behind it is still developing all along the way at the same time. So you acting as if these are settled issues in the Bible itself is completely not only anachronistic, but completely false. The Bible doesn't have settled opinions on hell because the idea of hell hadn't developed yet. The word hell is not in the Bible in this sense. It is a bad translation of Gehenna and Tartarus and a bunch of other words. I think hell is one of the worst translation choices, and it has stuck, and it is part of people's creeds. It's part of people's everything. A few years ago, the Catholic Church did a reform on its liturgy where it updated the language, and people didn't like the update, and they went back to the old language. I think hell is one of those words that needs to be updated, because what hell means today, and probably what hell has meant for like the last 500 years, is not anywhere close to what is being described in the Bible when the word hell is used in certain translations.
That no one gets to the Lord but through me.
It's disgusting. It's utterly repugnant, and it is.
It's not disgusting. So let's pretend you're a son and you're a man. Let's just pretend. Might not be true. And let's pretend that you have a father that's successful, maybe a king, maybe a president, maybe the head of a CEO or the head of a company, but he's old, he's ancient, and people really can't get to know him. But you're an up-and-comer, you worked your way up the company, you've worked all the ranks, and people know that they can get to your dad through you. But you're also the future heir of the company. You're the one who's going to be running the show. So whatever you say has the same authority as your father. People know that they can get to you, that they can get to your father through you. At some point, as heredity works, the king might not want to face the people, but instead have his son take over for him. This is how it happens in ancient property. This is why we use the idea of servants or slaves who work the land. What's the land? Earth. Who are the slaves? Humanity. We're God's servants. Now, specifically, the servants that are selected or hired are the chosen. So now we're Jewish people and Christians. That's it. Later on, I guess we can add Muslims into this. So you have these huge groups, but everyone's kind of fighting for position, and everyone's saying, hey, it's not fair that the next guy gets to get in. Okay? It's actually a parable in the Bible about this. But then you have everyone else who rejected the invitation, everyone else who's not part of that group. And God's trying to get them in. He's trying to hire more people onto his land. But if you don't do the work, you're not going to get the pay. Okay, so it's good works. This is the metaphor that's being used throughout the gospel. So, when we get to the development of hell, especially in Revelation, the apocalypse, we're talking about a much later development, much stronger, much greater development than what's in the Gospels, when I believe it's in John where they're talking about hell. So you have ideas that are coming from pagan cultures that are unrelated to what's in the Bible, what's being presented in the Bible, that is influencing how we're reinterpreting Sheol and how we're reinterpreting all this, because now we're using Tartarus, now we're using Hades. So now we're using different terminology and we're mixing it all together. And then Protestants make a mistake where they try to include the lake of fire, which is not hell. So you are taking all of these presumptions, mistakes on what the Bible's describing, all these accretions, to quote a very famous apologist, and you're solidifying it as if it's something that you can understand when it's not. There's not enough data about what hell is in the Bible for you to understand it. So you cannot understand the judgment either. That is why God says, do not judge, or Jesus says, do not judge, because only God can judge, because we can't know each other's hearts. So everybody could get into heaven, or no one can get into heaven. We don't know. What we do know is that the only people guaranteed to be in heaven is Moses, Ezra, is it Ezra? Moses, Ezra, Mary, and the 12 apostles, the original 12. Does that mean Judas is in heaven? I don't know. And that's it. Those are your guaranteed. You don't know who else is in there. Maybe in Revelation there's a little bit more of an answer. The 4,400, who knows? But that's the only answer we got. We don't have a detailed list of who's in heaven, who's not, who's going to get in, who's not going to get in, who's going to be saved, who's not going to be saved. We don't know. So a lot of what you're saying doesn't make sense when you then add into the fact that it's the default to go to hell. So let's go one step further. And this is something I want to do when I do my video that's going to be responding to Michael Beverly, assuming it's still on this platform. Jesus went to hell. So, maybe recalculate your understanding of what hell is and what Jesus is saying. Because even Jesus went to hell. He went to hell to free the souls there. There are some, and especially in Catholic circles, who will say that he didn't actually go to hell, he went to purgatory, but that's not how we say it in our creed, and that's not how we say it in Mass. We say he went to hell. Broke the gates of hell, rose back up to heaven. All right. Let's go a little bit more in this, and then we'll skip to another video.
Nothing that is anywhere near loving would appreciate such an association. And what this person's done is they've recognised this. They've looked at their loved ones and went, "How is this compatible?
Yeah, how do they deserve
I need to
this?"
reach out to Mike. He's got to help me out.
Yeah.
He's got to do it."
So let's see what Mike has to say.
Wow, Sean. Thank you for the sincerity of your question. And just so you know, I'm not responding weird to it at all.
Don't we get to decide if you respond? Yeah.
It's not totally unlike my situation growing up. I was the only Christian, the only person I would consider a genuine Christian that was part of my close family.
Right into
No
it.
true Scotsman
No
right
true
off the bat.
Scotsman right off the
I don't like when people try to use the no true Scotsman's fallacy. As a member of a club or as the club itself, you get to decide who's the member and who's not. Christians get to define themselves and get to define who is and who isn't a member of their group. As an atheist, you also get to do the same thing if you want to make an official atheist group. Some atheists have tried. It hasn't gone very well. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see who's next. Who's up next? Bow messing everything up. No, not the Fifth Element. I want to talk to Scarlet. I don't know who Scarlet is. I don't want to do that. Come on. There we go. Scarlet. I don't know who Scarlet is. Let's see a little bit of her intro, shall we?
So you might not know this, but Winger does have a lot of videos about wrong applications of Christianity, like faith healers and prosperity gospel. And he has some videos.
I mean, he is completely right on the prosperity gospel being a false gospel.
About why Mormonism is not Christianity, and
Mormonism is not Christianity. He's correct there too.
And what's wrong with Catholicism?
I mean, he doesn't like my group either.
I guess I just have to wonder, why does God allow people who believe in him to have wrong beliefs?
Again, this is something I'm going to talk to about my video in addressing Michael Beverly. So, God doesn't change. The Bible presents his opinion as changing because the understanding of God changes over time. The rules are set. Here's what's good, here's what's bad, here's what's moral, here's what's immoral. But people get it wrong. So, the closer you are to being right, the closer you are to being saved. And when you get the right formula, you're good to go, right? But not everyone gets the right formula. Everyone gets a little bit wrong. In fact, most people get it a little bit wrong. The gate is narrow. The path is wide. So, the wide path goes the wrong way. The narrow path goes the correct way. But very few can get it right. And as far as we know, the only one to get it perfectly right is Jesus. And so that's what we're looking at. That's what we're looking at. And I think a lot of atheists and ex-theists, in their anger at religion, which happens too often, get that understanding wrong. God is, Jesus in this case, is the lifeboat. He's saving the few. And he's coming for the many. But a lot of the many will reject his salvation. That is the argument.
I haven't watched all these videos. Yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I should do a deep dive on stuff Mike Winger thinks is bad.
Scarlett, feel free to do that to my videos. Watch all my videos if you want. And wow, Fillion, thank you for that. Watch my videos if you want. And feel free to comment on them. I'm open to critique, and I'm cool with people using my material.
Let me know in the comments if you think that's a good idea. Been in ministry since he was 18 or 19, and he says in that time he's heard so many end times predictions he doesn't care anymore. And scripture says no one Winger is.
Non-Christians are not going to be satisfied with that, most likely. A lot of them anyways aren't. They're going to find it offensive. It shouldn't be offensive to them. Like,
I get.
All right. She's not really getting into his specifics.
Hey
I was hoping
I
you
have
would.
a new book coming out. It's called What It Means to Be Protestant, The Case for an Always Reforming Church. I'm so excited to...
Gavin's another guy who's really cool about people critiquing him and doesn't get all bitchy about people. I'm not helping my case any. I'm just being an asshole. Whatever. I love Gavin Ortlund. Gavin Ortlund, you ever want to come on my channel, feel free. If by chance I ever get big enough that you invite me on yours, I'd love to talk to you.
release it out to the world. I remember I was...
And, you know, I've read Martin Luther. I've read the Augsburg Confession. I've read all the major creeds and confessions. I haven't read the larger catechism. I have read some of the smaller catechism from, I think, this Lutheranism. But Protestantism has never convinced me, especially their preachers themselves have always been very lackluster in their understanding of facts and logic and chronology and how literature works. I've never been impressed with the Protestant argument until Gavin Ortlund. Gavin Ortlund, Matt Whitman, and Jordan B. Cooper are the first three Protestants to ever impress me in any kind of way with their theological understanding. Like Joe Heschmeyer, Gavin Ortlund's claims do fall apart when you go more than three sources deep. But his initial source is always good. The secondary source is always good. The third when you get to your third reference point, you get 3 books deep, 3 quotes deep. He starts having a little bit of trouble. Joe Heschmeyer usually falls apart on the third level of investigation. So you can get to the first quote with Joe Heschmeyer. You can get to the first quote, it's going to be there. You get to the second quote, it might be a little out of context. You get to the third quote, and it's not saying what he says it says. Well, it's not saying what his source says it says, put it that way. And when you get any further than that, Joe Heschmeyer's arguments usually fall apart. Gavin Ortlund kind of has the same problem. He can get as deep as the reformers. When he goes further than the reformers, he usually falls. His understanding and his quote mining usually falls apart. With the church fathers, it's kind of hit or miss. I want to say he's like 60-40, like 60% he's right on, 40% he's off. But if you go further than the church fathers on anything that he's referencing, everything he's saying falls apart. So that's too bad. Too bad for him. Good for me. I'm Catholic, so it doesn't hurt me. But I do think that is a critique, and that's why I would love to see Heschmeyer and Gavin Ortlund, not Ortlund and Trent Horn, go at it, because I think Heschmeyer and Gavin Ortlund are perfectly matched up. Iron versus iron. This is like brass versus brass, maybe. But I would like to see them sharpen their skills, and I'd like to see them like go 4 or 5 or maybe even 6 rounds where they have to go deeper into their quotes beyond the church fathers and beyond just quote mining, like actually reading the material, the surrounding material that they're investigating. I think it would help both of them, and in turn would help their audiences understand things in a larger context. But anyway, that's me. I like Gavin Ortlund. Jordan B. Cooper, he has trouble on the first round, on the first level of depth, but it's his biases. It's not his understanding of the sources that usually gets him wrong. So he'll go with the Protestant argument every time. Matt Whitman, in his ecumenical and investigative efforts, is amazing. And his comprehension of what he learns in these investigations seems very lacking. And I don't just mean that for Catholicism. All the religions he seems to investigate, all the denominations, all the stuff that he seems to learn doesn't seem to stick in his head. So I think his audience gets more out of these lessons than he gets, which is fine. The point of a prophet is not for the prophet himself to understand, but for those who hear him to understand. So I think Matt Whitman is doing God's work. I just think Matt Whitman himself is wrong on his conclusions. But God can use whoever he wants, however he wills. And I do think God is using Matt Whitman to reach people and educate them. Let's do some Gavin Ortlund.
Standing in my backyard in Ojai when I decided I need to write this book. And I had time in my schedule. I realized, okay, I'm going to commit myself. One of the things I've become more aware of.
And I'm writing a book myself, not a religious book, a fiction book. I've written 2 books now that I've finished. I wrote a book about ancient Mycenae that almost got published, and then I got married and I got a job and I stopped sending it off to people. Made it to 3 rounds with one major publishing house, and they asked me to do corrections and I never did. That's now 7 years ago. What was it? The second book I finished, but I felt that there was more that could have been added into it. It was a sci-fi novel that was taking place a million years in the future, after the fall of humanity and the machines. The conceit of the story was that the machines missed the humans and they wanted to bring humanity back, but they kept on getting the formula wrong. So every time they tried to recreate humanity, it didn't work. The soul they couldn't recreate the soul. That was the main problem. That's supposed to be a reveal in the book. So anyone watching this in the future, that's the reveal, is that they couldn't recreate the soul. So they're trying to figure out how to recreate the soul. So I wrote that, I finished it, but then there's like these like other episodes that I wanted to keep doing. And so I went back to try to like add all that in. and then the project got way too big, and then life happened, and I haven't gone back to it. So I finished that book, but then the additional chapters I was adding into it, I have not finished, even though they don't have anything to do with the main story, which is already done and all good. The current story I'm working on is a drama, a teen drama of all that, a young adult drama, dealing with someone at the age of, well, not someone, a group of friends at the age of 13, at the age of 18, and at the age of 25, 26. And it's showing the growth and the changes between them. It's three friends, two sisters, and a guy, and that's the guy who they both like, and he likes both of them, and it's that kind of thing. That's what I'm working on right now. But every day when I get out of work, before I go on the show, I do that, and every day before I go to work, for about an hour, I do that. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with my spare time.
Is this dynamic of what I call ecclesial angst. Do you pronounce it angst or angst? Who knows? Ecclesial angst. Let's go with
angst. Angst.
Ecclesial angst. What is ecclesial?
No, get southern. Angst.
Angst. So the word ecclesial has.
Why you betray the South like this? The South loves you, my friend. Say angst.
Has to do with the church, and I think a lot. The angst is this sense of fear, apprehension, dread, and a lot of people are afraid they're in the wrong church. A lot of people are afraid they've made the wrong decisions about the church, and some people even to the point of fearing I will not be saved because.
Oh, speaking of which, I am still going to. I don't care how much Ignatius Press gets mad at me. I'm still going to review the Ignatius Press Bible, and I've already read and use and own the New Testament version of the Ignatius Press Bible. So I can already tell you, I don't like it. So it's going to be fun. I want to be clear. I'm talking about a specific version of I think there's other Ignatius Press study Bibles, but there's one particular version, the one that's by Scott Hahn. It's very Scott Hahn-y, and Scott Hahn is a great guy, but he ain't the Pope and he ain't the Magisterium, and it would be like a Bible commentary that's just Jimmy Akin's Bible commentary. Would that be cool? I might read it, but I wouldn't want to base my theology on Jimmy Akin. Just like I wouldn't want someone to base their theology solely on my opinion and my understanding of the Bible. Don't get me wrong, I think I'm right, but that doesn't mean that I am. So I do think that's risky. You know, the James MacArthur Bible or whatever Bible, it's Schofield Bible. I think it's just a little. I think it's a little iffy when you're going on just one man's opinion. Like I said, like almost everybody agrees, the Passion Bible, bad translation. But I'm sure to the dude who translated it, it's awesome.
I'm not Roman Catholic, or I'm not Eastern Orthodox, or I'm not Protestant, or whatever other option.
You're not Protestant, but you're reading a book about why you love to be Protestant? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'm going to be reviewing this guy's book. By the way, I'm almost done. I'm halfway through. John Barden. Hold on, let me look this up. John Barden's A History of the Bible. I'm halfway through. It is good. It's good. It's good. When I review his book, I'm not sure how I'm going to review it because it's not really the kind of book you review, but I'm going to review it. And I can tell you right now, it is good.
Or just I'm missing out on the fullness of the church. I'm missing out on the fullness of the sacraments. And of course, these claims come at us a lot. A lot more people than I realized are in that place. They're feeling this deep sense of anxiety. I also call it anxiety.
I'm thinking I'm going to just watch this section, and then I'm going to watch this section.
When I got onto YouTube, I did not expect to get into quote-unquote Protestant apologetics.
When he got onto YouTube, I thought he was going to stay a small channel, and I reached out to him, and he responded to me a bunch. And then Trent Horn responded to him, and I've never heard from Gavin Ortlund again. It makes me very sad because I really like Gavin Ortlund, and I would have loved him to stay at a medium to small channel and for him to come on my channel because I was hoping I could be friends with this dude. I'm going to be really blunt. I really was. I was really hoping to be friends with this guy because I really liked everything he was saying. I like the cut of this kid's jib.
But there's a massive amount of interest in this right now. It's really.
this young apologist is going places with his gray hair and wrinkles.
Interesting. Many people, I put out videos on things like apostolic succession or the papacy or sola scriptura or whatever it might be. And I'm just flooded with comments saying, oh, I was looking for resources on this. It's interesting, despite the fact that we've been having these disagreements for so many hundreds of years, and there's so many huge quantities of people on the different sides, actually, we don't have enough resources. I know that's shocking, but especially, and then here's the other thing, the historic Protestant voices have largely been forgotten. In this book, I draw a lot from classic Lutherans like Martin Chemnitz, classic Anglicans like William Whittaker, John Jewell, many others, Richard Hooker.
So, just to be very clear, I bought 360 different volumes of the Church Fathers. And that's not even the whole collection. There's more, way more. And I'm barely on book 7. I have read the Church Fathers in a 3-year cycle through the Liturgy of the Hours. I've done that. But this is me concentrating on only those works by the Church Fathers. And like I said, of the 350 books that I bought, I'm only through 7. I have read Church Fathers beforehand. I spent like maybe 6 years reading through the Church Fathers. And I was reading like maybe one Church Father every month, every 2 months, something like that. I have most of the stuff that I've read reviewed here on this channel when it comes to the Church Fathers. That's not part of the Liturgy of the Hours. I've the Office readings. I've reviewed most of those books that I've read. I think there's only like 1 or 2 that I hadn't. But doing it as a project has become a much bigger thing. I just tried to finish Tertullian and I couldn't get into him. So I switched to the Jerome. Jerome's much easier to read, but I've had a few major incidents this last 2 weeks, including my dad being in the hospital, the copyright strike, a family member going missing. So I have not had time to catch up on my reading on that. But I'm loving Jerome. He's a great writer, or the translator who translated him is a great translator anyway. And I don't mean like accurate. I mean like as an interesting. Like it's good reading. It's really fun reading. I do plan on reviewing the Ignatius Study Bible. I am going to buy the 5th volume. The 5th volume? The 4th volume of the Word on Fire Study Bible. I believe that's the entire thing. I think the only thing missing after that would be the Apocrypha. And I don't think they're going to separate it out, but they might. I don't know. I don't know. I'll let me buy the 4th volume. I think that might be the entire Bible. They might have a 5th one. I don't know. And then I will review it as a set. I've read the first 2. The 3rd one, I kind of skimmed through the 3rd volume because that's kind of when my life started going kind of crazy. But I do want to review the whole thing. It's my favorite study Bible, period. It's not my favorite study Bible as in what the NRSV 5th edition Oxford Ecumenical can do. Like it doesn't come close. It doesn't. They're not even doing the same thing. The SBL Study Bible, the NRSV, the Oxford Study Bible, those are in its own category. The Catholic Oxford Catholic Study Bible, all those 3 Bibles are perfect for academic study. On the other spectrum is going to be pastoral care, and I think don't get me wrong, the CSB Ancient Faith Study Bible does it. The collection that I have of Ancient Church Fathers commentary, intermixed as notes, as liner notes, as not liner notes, the bottom notes on the IVF. Is it IVF? That's funny if it's IVF. Whatever. That series it's good. They actually are the same source. It's just one's compressed. The Orthodox Study Bible has a lot of good Church Father quotes as well. So yeah, like I do want to keep reviewing Bibles. I do want to keep reviewing debates. If for some reason I get another strike before the 90 days are up, I will just turn this channel into a review channel where I will just be reviewing debates and just be reviewing books. I don't have a choice. I don't want to lose my channel. That's what I'll have to do. Anyway, here we go.
Classic Reformed theologians like John Calvin and Francis Turretin and many others, the Puritans. And I'm drawing from these
Oh, but I'll finish my 90-day skit. That's going to happen. My skit is I'm going to have fun with this.
historic voices. They've written these wonderful books that have largely been forgotten. What I've basically realized is there's an enormous amount of interest in these sort of ecumenical questions. What kind of church should I join? You know, it's just amazing how many people are wrestling with that. But then there's an under-resourcing of it, and especially the historic Protestant voices are just not out there. So what I'm trying to do in this book is just draw together.
That's the whole reason why I brought this up. So you can get the collection with the church fathers. You can even get the Bible with just the church fathers. But you can get it with the reformers. And it's the same thing. It's the commentary, but from the reformer side of things. And you can get just the Bible with the reformer stuff. I think that's a great resource for Protestants. As a Catholic, I'm not interested. But as a Protestant, it'd be great for you to understand what your faith actually is founded on, and what the arguments were at the time, and what the view was at the time of the Reformation from the people who founded your different religions, or your different denominations, if you will. I think that's excellent. So I just wanted to mention that.
Together, kind of a
As
classic
long-windedly
case
as possible.
for a Protestant position and articulate that. But it's also, it's not exhaustive. This book does not cover every issue, and it's trying to be accessible.
I haven't read it yet, but I think this book combined with the one by the Orthodox priest, Father Josiah, House of Sand or something Sand, Foundation of Sand. I think those two are going to be a good pair together. So you can hear the positive case for Protestantism and the negative case against Protestantism from an Orthodox point of view. So you're not even going from a Catholic point of view. I think that's an excellent combination. I haven't done it yet. But I think they're going to be paired up very well.
So it's not an academic book. So if you're looking for something that will, be 500 pages and comb through every issue, that's not this book. This book is a brief articulation designed to be given. So let me get into this second question.
He's just a beautiful man. Look at that. Look at this guy. Look at the blue eyes, the fair skin, the height. Why isn't this guy king of America?
One of this book. In fact, let's get into the contents now.
He should be an actor.
Philip Schaff
He doesn't have to say anything. Just kind of, that'll be his whole role.
had a much more sort of ecumenical vision of Protestantism. So you'll see.
I don't know why he loves Shaft so much, and I don't have an opinion on Shaft, but just the more he loves him, the more I want to be like, oh, Shaft, that idiot.
That if you read chapter 1 of this book. Let me put up a picture of the table of contents, and you can see the book comes through 3 sections.
Okay, we got Protestantism and Catholicism, Protestantism and authority, Protestantism and history. This is actually going over I thought this was going to be more contextual. It looks like it's just going over what's in like a generalization of the book. Let me hear a little bit more of this. If there's something more there, we'll listen to it. If not, we're going to skip over to another video.
Okay. So in section 1, this is the most introductory section. Here I'm talking about Catholicity, which means the wholeness of the church. And I'm basically making a case that Protestantism is best positioned for Catholicity. And that's countering.
I don't think that's a good argument. I think you could argue that Protestantism should be included in Catholicity. I don't like that word. In the universal church. You can make the argument that Protestantism has developed into something that should be included in the universal church. I don't think it is the universal church. I think the universal church, the true church, subsists within the Catholic Church, and that you can make connections with vines, and the vines can be regrafted in, just like Jesus said. So I think you can regraft in Protestantism, especially as to what it's developed into. But you have to get rid of all the false stuff that's also weighing down Protestantism and keeping it from being connected. But I think you can graft it back in.
Intuitive because of some street level Protestant practice, which is very sectarian and just wants to write off everything outside of its own little tribe.
I don't think we're going to do the other videos tonight. I think we're going to keep it here. I think we're going to end it on this video because I think this is a good place to end. We'll go 6 more minutes.
That happens. But historically, Protestantism wasn't like that. And I basically go through and I show that is not how Luther and Calvin thought. That is not how historic Protestant lights like Turretin and Richard Hooker thought. And I
Now, I've heard people argue that James White is not a true Calvinist, and I think if Ortlund is also, I know that he's part of Big Evil supposedly, but I don't care about stupid designations like that. But if he's if he's a Calvinistic Baptist and not a Presbyterian, then he might not be considered a true Calvinist either. So he might be, in a kind of more honest way, adopting Calvinistic ideas as in from John Calvin that he thinks actually comports or conforms to Christian understanding, which I think might be a better way to handle John Calvin if you're going to go with Calvinism. I don't think Calvinism is correct, so I don't want him to make that choice. But if you're going to use Calvinistic ideas, I think it's better to use it piecemeal instead of just whole out submitting to Calvinistic understanding, because there's a lot of flaws there.
especially draw from
In
Philip
Calvinism.
Schaff. Philip Schaff was essentially, and here you get into the question of what is Protestantism. Philip Schaff, he was a 19th century Reformed church historian.
To be fair, I was just covering what is Calvinism, and he's doing what is Protestantism. So it's a little, we're slicing tomatoes here.
And theologian.
Do you like that one instead of slicing here? Slicing tomatoes? Anybody? Anybody? Anybody?
If you've ever heard the phrase Mercersburg theology, that's associated with Schaff and his colleague John Nevin. But basically, Schaff was a great church historian. If you've done any work in the Church Fathers, you've probably heard his name. He thought a lot about Protestantism.
I read a lot of Church Fathers. Majority of stuff that I get is either the translation. So my preferred translation of the Church Fathers. Let's go back. What I was reading from the Church Fathers before, if it wasn't what's in the Liturgy of the Hours, which is the translation that I was using both. I was using the one from the UK from HarperCollins, and the one from the US, which I believe is from Catholic Publishing Press or something like that. Catholic Book Publishing, which is not actually like part of the Catholic Church. It's just that's the name of the publishing company. My next favorite translation of the Church Fathers is going to actually come from the Loeb Classic Library, but they don't have everything. Then after that, my next academic choice is going to be the Catholic University of America. If they don't have it, then I would go to the Oxford translations, and if the Oxford translations didn't have it, no, I'm sorry, I would go to the Penguin translations, and if the Penguin translations didn't have it, I would go to the Oxford. And then if Oxford didn't have it, I would just get whatever free edition was on free. I mean, it still costs like $3, $4. Was available on Amazon through CreateSpace or whatever. And usually they would use the free available version that's on a Catholic website anyway, so I was okay with that. Although some of the translations are really poor.
And he basically cast Protestantism as a renewal or reform effort within the church. So it's not rejecting the rest of the church. It's not saying there is no church outside of us. It's saying, no, the church has always been there. The church has never died, but this is an effort of reform and renewal within the church.
A lot of Protestants don't agree with you, though. So even though I like what you're saying, and most Catholics like what you're saying, a lot of Protestants that are very outspoken don't agree with what you're saying. And you kind of saw this with your outreach on environmentalism. There are fundamentalists, neo-fundamentalists, I guess, who don't like your message and don't like what you're saying. Let's watch a little bit of this one.
Well, if Protestantism is a renewal work within the church, how do you tell the difference between a genuine renewal effort and a spurious one? What makes Protestantism?
I wonder if you would consider Trent a spurious one. Reactionary.
From Mormonism, for example. We have this kind of chart put against us sometimes. Now, there's actually a lot of
Counter-Reformation
differences between those two. Mormonism claims a new revelation and so forth. Protestantism is nothing like that. But nonetheless, to make these kinds of distinctions, you have to get into the question of basically.
There's a lot of accusations around Martin Luther and Calvin when it comes from the Catholic perspective.
How do we determine what Christianity is? You know,
I like that question. I like that question. I'm going to leave it on that question. How do we determine what Christianity is? I like that question. That's good. All right, let's go to the music and let's get out of here. This is a good 1 hour, guys. This was a good 1 hour. I like this. I like what we did today. Outro, and then we'll be closing out in 2 minutes. Peace. Forgive everyone for everything. Love your enemy. Love your neighbor. Love yourself. And love God above all. Peace out.
Nights, long fights, it felt right, we were alive. We would go out, we were so loud, we were so proud, we had no doubts. Weekends and weekdays, we'd spend our own way. We were careless, we were fearless, we were reckless, time was precious.
We loved to waste time, whiskey and wine, drinking all night, asleep by your side. Finally alive, we would just drive, never arrive. Our journey was live, staying out late, testing our fate, running away. We live for today, young and so bold, never get old. Screw what we're told, we can't be controlled.